This part is I'll just speak for a few minutes and then you'll actually get to talk to the people who are working in the services. So I'll give you a bit of an overview about how the centre works and then I'll hand it over to the team. We've got a great team who's based out there. So the Koch Centre for Youth got a great intro from Mr. Ken Maroney, which I appreciate. Cut about 5 minutes off my presentation, telling you a bit about the history of how the Koch Centre for Youth came about. So we opened up at the beginning of this year and after being constructed last year. We've been working in Macquarie Fields since 2005, since the public disturbances. And we don't just work in Macquarie Fields, we do work and cover southwestern Sydney depending on where the need is. So the first thing I'll do is just tell you about how the centre is structured. We are called the Koch Centre for Youth, not the Koch Youth Centre. And there's a particular reason for that we're not just an old style youth centre where kids just rock up, hang out and do that sort of drop-in. We do have that facility, that component of a youth centre that kids can come and just hang out and feel safe and it's their own space rather than hanging out down at the shopping centre. But we do a whole lot more than that. So first I'll introduce you to James, who's manning our video camera today. James is the program coordinator for the youth centre. So it's his job to organise the activities that happen 7 days a week in our centre. So we're open every afternoon after school up until 9 o'clock at night for our young people in the area. And it's a range of structured and unstructured activities. So obviously we need to have that idea kids can come and just hang out. But if we don't engage with them appropriately and offer that structure and boundaries, I think we can all understand that leads to other problems. The youth centre is, obviously it's a massive facility, so that the centre, as Father spoke of before, was a $6 to $7 million construction. So just for the young people accessing that facility, they've got state-of-the-art facilities in terms of sport and recreation. They've got in-ground trampolines, they've got pool tables, they've got basketball courts, volleyball courts. So it is an amazing space that young people can feel connected to. The second part of our program, which I'll point out, I'll just get Jessica and Emily to raise their hands. And they're over at the Strategic Engagement Team, which is everything I'm talking about is located at the same centre, but we have broken it up and structured it. So the role of the Strategic Engagement Team is to operate strategic activities or partnerships that are going to benefit our young people. So it's not just centre-based, it might be working with holiday activities with other agencies in the area, it could be organising health promotion activities, it might be working on particular subgroups within the centre. So we've got some leadership groups or empowerment groups as we call them for young boys and girls. We've also got young mums and young dads groups to support those young people who are at different stages in their life and needing that support. So that's the Strategic Engagement Team. You can have a look at some of the planning that goes into what they do as well. So it's not about just entertaining the kids or keeping them busy, it's actually giving them some purpose and some meaning in what they do. Down the back there we've got Chris, and Chris is the Senior Youth Worker with Aboriginal Services. So we're lucky enough to have Aboriginal Services located full-time in the centre. And Chris is engaging with the local Aboriginal elders community and the local networks that work with Aboriginal young people, as well as supporting the Aboriginal young people involved in our programs such as Eden College, which I'll now move on to. So Kelly Anderson is the school manager for Eden College, and you'll see the display over there which just shows you some of the work that the kids do. It is a full-time school program, so it's not, often people think of flexible learning as being of a lesser intensity than mainstream school. That's not the case. It is a more supported environment, but it's still full-time. They still have to fulfil the Board of Studies requirements, which Kelly can tell you all about, and how they creatively have to structure their programs to get through that. But it is intensive. It's a lot of work for the teachers to sometimes have to work with young people who are been disengaged from school since primary school. So their literacy levels, their numeracy levels are at a level which needs a lot of work. So the teachers have a hard time. Sometimes you've got Year 8 kids sitting next to Year 9 kids or Year 10 in the same class. So varying that program is one of the things that the teachers have to do. So have a chat to Kelly about what they do down at the school there. There's a lot of activities that you see there. It's not all fun and games though. They do spend a lot of time in the classroom. Okay, and behind you ladies over here is the youth centre display. So James or Peter, where's Pete? Pete's over here, Senior Youth Worker with the youth centre. So if you've got questions about, okay, how does the youth centre operate, what do we actually do there, about the facility, speak to James or Pete. Now, I'll just give you a bit of information about our value system, and then I'll set you on your way for your tour. Youth Off the Streets has a value system called PRIDE, which is passion, respect, integrity, dedication and engagement. And they're really important to what we do at the Cross Centre for Youth, particularly engagement. So we actually challenge our youth workers and our teachers and staff to build a rapport and relationship with our young people. And that's what Yachts prides itself on, is actually being connected. And it's not about a youth worker standing there and supervising activity, it's about a youth worker getting in there alongside a young person. And that's when the conversations happen, and that's when the connections happen, and that's where we can refer young people to appropriate services. The young people we work with have gone through a lifetime of difficulty, often through abuse, neglect, whatever the situation. So it's about us providing support. We don't have all the answers, but we can draw in different services and try to provide that support. The other value system, just before I finish, that we operate on is the Circle of Courage, which is a value system that Youth Off the Streets has adopted, Father Riley's adopted, and based on that North American Indian principle of it takes a village to raise a child. So we firmly believe that it's not just one person, the parent's role, it's actually our role. And that's based on 4 principles or 4 values. The first being belonging. So we try to establish with our young people that they do belong and that they have a place and that we welcome them and that they have a purpose for being there. And without belonging, it's a basic human need. If we don't feel that we belong, often we'll continue to resist against things and fight against things, and we'll resist structure and routine and boundaries. So belonging is essential to what we do, and often we say it's the first piece. If we can allow the young person to feel belonging, then things will flow from that. The second piece is mastery. It's everything we do is success-based, so we have to give these young people a chance to feel good about something, because if they don't, they're very good at doing other stuff. So whether that's antisocial behaviours, whether that's resisting against authority, they're quite good at that, and they've been skilled and they've developed that over years. So if we don't offer them something else, well then often that cycle is going to continue. So whether it's music, it could be cooking, it could be sport, finding something that young person is good at, passionate about, and they care about. And for each young person, we believe there's greatness within. The next piece is independence. We can't do it for them. We can help them, we can support them, put them on the right direction, and pick them up when things don't go well. But if they can't stand up on their own 2 feet, it's not sustainable. And we need to develop stuff that's going to work outside of what we do. So it's not that cotton wool, and as soon as youth workers or teachers step away, the kids fall down. But it's always with support. We don't leave them, and Youth Off the Streets is prides itself on having an aftercare program where the kid comes knocking on our door 10 years down the track, we don't say no. So there is that connection which keeps going. And the final piece before I finish is generosity. So we provide opportunities for the kids to give back, and that's often the full circle that we can see, that the kids have seen that, hey, we've had some help along the way, I'd like to give back. And we all know that giving, whether it's giving a Christmas present, actually feels good, and you feel like you have a purpose. So we have a service learning program that operates, and you've probably heard about it through your tour. But service learning operates with our centre as well, through a hospital program, through a preschool program, through land care, through various different opportunities for our kids to contribute to their own local community, but also the wider community as well. So I'll finish there. If you've got any questions, feel free to go around. We really encourage you to talk to the staff, have a look at the displays. They've spent hours working on these things, so making it all look pretty. Yeah, just have a chat to them, and they're the guys who are working and doing the groundwork. So thank you for your support. Really appreciate it, and welcome to come out to the centre if you haven't been. Thanks very much.